Hi, my name is Shiva. Welcome to my channel. I have made album cover art for musicians in the past, and this has inspired me to make this video. I think that a good album cover is an essential element of a musician's overall artistic presentation. It communicates the essence of the music and establishes a strong identity for the artist. People say don't judge a book by its cover, but unfortunately we still do. I would say because the album covers are so important to musicians, sometimes they go overboard with their imagination and album covers like this are born. I wouldn't say that they are bad, I would just say that their creativity just went too far, or maybe, but that's a good thing. Well, what I'm trying to say, these album covers look very weird. You can decide for yourself if it's a good thing or not. The first album cover that I would call weird is Metallica Load. The cover of the album is an original artwork entitled Blood and Cement 3 by a Brooklyn-based artist, Andre Serrano.
I'm Andre Serrano. I define an outsider as someone who doesn't quite fit. Especially for an artist, it's good to be an outsider because you're more creative, you're freer. My work is very basic. It's about life.
He's best known for his work titled Piss Christ, and it was attacked 3 times. Just like the work Ivan the Terrible and his son Ivan. He created the Metallica cover by mixing his own semen with bovine blood in between 2 sheets of plexiglass. He liked mixing his own liquids to create his art. Serrano has used his own body liquids such as urine, blood, and milk, not his own, to create art. And of course he was also quoting or referencing Christian symbols. The idea of blood and semen was a complex metaphor to describe the dualities of life, creation and destruction. To be honest, I wouldn't say that there's a deep meaning behind this. Who wouldn't be shocked by an album cover with bovine blood and semen? Frank Zappa, Weasels Ripped My Flesh is the second controversial weird album that I will talk about. An album by the group Mothers of Invention. Frank Zappa commissioned Neon Park to create the album cover. It was based on a story from the September 1956 issue of Man's Life, a men's adventure magazine. Just listen to this. The Men's Life magazines were lurid tales of adventure that typically were promoted as true stories narrated in first person about wartime, exotic travel, or confrontation with wildlife. This magazine cover depicts a shirtless man that is being attacked by numerous weasels. The illustration for the magazine was done by Will Halsey. He made illustrations in categories such as sexy Civil War scenes and Westerners. I imagine the reader full of testosterone, anger, and looking like this. Zappa kind of came up with the idea for the cover art. He showed Neon Park the magazine and said, "This is it, what can you do that's worse than this?" Neon's answer was to craft a parody of an advertisement for Shrek brand electric razor based on the Weasels Ripped My Flesh theme. Here's how the original advertisement looked for the razor. It looks very similar to the album cover. The record company decided to release the album even though they had concerns with the cover. I would have concerns too. King Crimson, the Court of the Crimson King. The painting of the 21st century schizoid man appears on the 1969 record album by a British progressive rock, art rock group, King Crimson. If somebody didn't know this, like me, progressive rock is a genre that combines classical music, jazz, folk, and even electronic music. The album cover was painted in the summer of 1969 by Barry Godber, who was an artist and a computer programmer. He used his own face viewed through a mirror and watercolors to make the painting. Also, Barry found inspiration in the music itself. He captured the emotion of the 21st century schizoid man, the song that is first on the album. The lyrics written by Peter Sinfield speak to the inner turmoil, mental instability, and loss of individual identity in a world filled with violence and corruption. What is interesting is that Godber also created a miniature version of the 21st century schizoid man. Unfortunately, this was the only album cover that Barry Godber painted. He died in February 1970, shortly after the album's release, due to a heart attack. He lived a very short life, but this album cover is one of the best. Beautiful artwork. Barry was very talented, in my opinion. When it first appeared in record shop windows, it created a storm of interest, with many odd shoppers buying the album solely because of the album cover alone. The power and the intensity of the image has never been diminished. David Bowie Diamond Dogs. This cover is a painting by Guy Pelocht. Non più tra I farfalloni amoroso, notte giorno di torno girano. He was a Belgian artist, painter, illustrator, and a photographer. Most famous for his album cover for David Bowie and the Rolling Stones. His style was influenced by psychedelic art and pop art. The Diamond Dogs cover depicts Bowie as a half-man, half-dog hybrid. To me, he almost looks like an unfinished meme. This drawing of David was based on a photo session by Terry O'Neill. You can see the comparison on the screen. You can really tell that he used his photos for reference. The theme of Diamond Dogs was influenced by 1984 by George Orwell. The image was supposed to represent Bowie's own Orwell post-apocalyptic world. The human-dog hybrid was the fluidity of identity, and I didn't find any information what the blue ladies in the background mean or represent. If you have any ideas, you can comment them. The album had two versions. One with the dog genitalia, and the other one had that part airbrushed with black. The genitalia version is considered very rare, and there are just a few copies in the world. Due to the controversy, the cover was altered shortly after the release. The album for the Beatles, Yesterday and Today, is also one of the most controversial and talked about in history. In March 1966, photographer Robert Whittaker captured the Beatles in a conceptual art piece called Somnambulist Adventure. That translates to an adventure while sleepwalking. This triptych, a series of photographs aimed to explore the themes of reality and fantasy. The Beatles were dressed in butcher outfits with doll parts, fake teeth and eyes, and raw meat scattered around them. In this series, the baby doll parts symbolized how fame could tear the Beatles apart, while the raw meat represented their fans. Eyes and teeth were representing fake idols, criticizing how the fans saw them as these untouchable goddesses. Robert Whittaker was also inspired by Hans Bellmer and Merritt Oppenheim to create the photo shoot. The back cover also featured John Harrison hammering nails into John Lennon's head. This was a commentary on the pressures of fame and the dehumanizing effects that it had on the band. Whittaker spent a significant amount of time with the band, accompanying them to concerts and observing their lives. While he saw them as normal people, their fans treated them like gods, and this contrast became central to his artistic vision. I thought that this was very interesting. In one other photo session, Robert had the group standing with brooms, umbrellas. Martin described the photo shoot as gross and lacking in taste, while Paul and John very liked the concept of the overall photo shoot. Paul suggested that it could serve as a band's statement on the Vietnam War. Beatles would put out songs how they wanted for their UK label, but their US label, Capitol Records, would force them to make these mini albums in between, and they would put songs that weren't released yet. Many interpreted the image as the Beatles protesting against the record company policies for butchering their albums for the North American market. However, when the butcher cover was first released, it had more negative than positive feedback. The inclusion of the raw meat and the disassembled dolls was seen as highly offensive by the public. In response to the backlash, Capitol Records replaced the original butcher cover with a more conventional photograph of the band. They pasted a trunk photo on top of the butcher cover. Like with David Bowie Diamond Dogs, now the butcher cover is highly collectible, and some people even peel off the first layer to reveal the butcher cover underneath. Were these albums weird or not? That's for you to decide. But I would say that they're still very impressive and cool. Before making this video, I listened to all of these albums, and I would say that I liked King Crimson the most. Please don't beat me up in the comments for not putting David Bowie, or I don't know, yeah, probably David Bowie as my most favorite. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next video. However,